Hey guys, what is up? It is Bibsy7 here again, and welcome to another RuneScape 3 video here today. In this video, I'm going to be going through all of the updates that I missed while I was gone, including the 3 new Elder God Wars bosses, giving my thoughts and opinions on them, and just talking about the updates as a whole. I will be going through the update posts as I usually do, so some of this information you might already know, considering these updates have been out for quite a while. But it's still kind of how I wanted to do this, just to make sure I covered everything and I was aware of all the stuff that did, of course, come out with these updates. So the first one that I missed, and it was partially because I was away from home during the time that this one came out, and then right when I got home, I started to have the issue that I was dealing with. But that is the Glacier front. That was the first update that I missed, which is unfortunate because it was a new streaking boss, which I've been really hoping to get for quite a long time now. Basically, it has the same streaking mechanic and enrage mechanic as Telos, which I've always said is the best designed mechanic in the game, in my opinion. It's so fun to streak kills together and push enrage and do all that sort of stuff. And I really enjoyed doing that at Telos, so I was sure I was going to like this boss. And I have done some of it now since I've been back. I actually just recently died on my first streak. So I did one normal mode kill because you have to do that to unlock the hard mode. And then I did unlock the hard mode. I got a 29 kill streak before I just died recently. And that was because one of those pillars spawned right on top of me and killed me instantly, pretty much. So that was really annoying and kind of stupid. But yeah, I got up to 332% enrage before that happened, and I really wasn't having any trouble with it or anything like that. So if I hadn't gotten one shot, I would have been able to continue for quite a while, I think. But overall, as the boss is concerned, it's pretty fun. It's an enjoyable boss. I don't think it's as good as Telos at all. I think Telos is a much more fun boss, and it has more mechanics and is, I don't know. I just enjoyed. I felt the Telos was more enjoyable than this boss in general, although I haven't done this boss anywhere near as much. That's just sort of the first impression I have of it. Is it's fun, but it's not as interesting as Telos. It's in a pretty restricted arena, which is kind of not that great, but it's really interesting how it makes you move around a lot. And I really like the way they designed it to be very easily learnable. I think that is a really good thing that they did with this boss. Basically, you can turn off and on any of the mechanics that you want, and the hard mode KC is only when you have all the mechanics on, and that's the only time you can do the streaking kills either. So it is very cool that they have that, and it is awesome that you can turn each mechanic on or off one at a time to learn the boss slowly or at your own pace. I think it's just great. I really appreciate that they did that for people who do need something like that to learn a boss. And for a boss like this, which it actually is, the 4K enrage version of this boss is harder than the 4K enrage version of Telos. So for basically the new hardest boss in the game, if you consider that, it is great that they have such an accessible on ramp to killing it. So I was pretty happy with that. I just went straight in with all the mechanics and had no problems really. There are some pretty punishing ones. The pillars mainly are pretty rough, and then the laser beam. If you don't get that properly, then you will die pretty quickly. I think people call it the cannon spec. So if you don't like devotion that or anything, you'll die pretty quickly. But overall, in my opinion, not very hard. But obviously, as your enrage gets up and higher, it does get a lot harder. And yeah, overall, I enjoyed it a decent amount. I'll probably do some more streaks. I think I'll be able to get my enrage much higher once I find like the most consistent way of dealing with the pillars. Easily, the worst part about the boss is that pillar attack. Just because, not because of, well, I guess it is because of the attack itself, but not because of the way it works intrinsically, but because of the way it works in this game. Like that attack in most games would probably be fine, but in RuneScape, since we're on a 0.6 second tick system, anything that moves and has a damage zone is absolutely terrible in this game because it is never in sync with the image you're shown on the screen. Because the thing on screen is moving slowly and smoothly. Meanwhile, the actual damage of that thing has to move square by square, first of all, which isn't smooth, and it only moves at 0.6 ticks, 0.6 seconds. Only every 0.6 seconds can that zone update. So it really is just pretty horrible. That's sort of the reason why you can have things where you'll surge away and still get hit by it because you're technically not surged away yet. Things like that, really, really annoying. And I just really hate the mechanic in general at the boss. I'm not sure how they could have implemented something like it to be better with the limitations that exist with the game today, but um, I can't really think of any similar mechanics at any bosses that I'm 100% aware of. Like things that move. Oh, first boss I clicked on. The beams at Ambassador are pretty similar, and those are just as bad, although they're a lot easier to avoid, and they are very predictable, which is an important part of it. The pillars here are kind of predictable because they just move towards you, but the problem with them is that they spawn pretty randomly. I know they're supposed to spawn based off where you're standing, but I'm fairly sure because I've been standing in the same place and they still spawn in different locations. There's like a range of an area where they can spawn, and that makes them unpredictable regardless of how they move after being spawned. And yeah, it's really annoying for that. I think at the very least, the pillars should always spawn in the exact same places every single time if you are on the same square at least. Obviously, this wouldn't work if you're not on the same square because there's only 3 pillars and there's bound to be some square you can just stand on and not get hit at all, regardless of how long you're standing there. Although maybe not because they are up there for a pretty long time. I don't know. I just really, really, really don't like that mechanic at all. And think it should be changed in some way because the moving damage zones is just not compatible with this game. But other than that, I think it is really fun. All the other mechanics are perfectly fine and enjoyable. Just thinking through them in my head, you have the cannon, you have the prayer switching phase, you have the arms DPS. What else is there? The minions. Minions are kind of annoying, but they're not too bad. Especially that helps with your AoE DPS. And the best part about it is that each of the mechanics and the fact that you can turn them on and off gives you the ability to practice a certain skill. Just like even how I said it, there's a prayer switching mechanic. So for a certain amount of time, the Glacier can use magic, range, and melee when normally it only uses magic. And that can help you learn how to prayer switch properly for and that can prepare you for other bosses like phase 4 of Araxor or going to Raksha. So I think it's really, really awesome that they have this sort of mechanic learning boss in the game. The pillars kind of can teach you how to do movement and also will help you learn how terrible stuff is in this game if it's moving, and how you basically have to be much farther away from it than you'd think to be perfectly safe. There's the cannon spec, which is like how to deal with a huge amount of damage coming in at once. It's a pretty simple thing to deal with devotion, but sometimes you can get the cannon spec before your devotion is back up. How do you deal with it then? Usually like Reflectabil, Vitality Pot, things like that make you survive it pretty easily, but it's something good for people to learn for sure. And then the minions help you deal with multiple targets and killing minions off at a boss while you're watching out for its regular attacks. And then what's the other one? The arms phase is a bit of a DPS checking if you know how to deal your damage quickly enough. So overall, really, really cool mechanics and great design for learning. I just wish the pillars mechanic was a bit different, but yeah, the streaking is pretty cool. As far as these drops are concerned that came out, I'm not the biggest fan of how you get all of the drops. I guess I don't know. It's kind of weird, and I don't actually understand 100% how it works, but you kind of have to get a bunch of different things to make one of the weapons. I don't even know what a Leng artifact is, to be honest. Let me look that up really quick. Sorry for the typing. Leng artifact. Oh, you can upgrade Nightmare Gauntlets, Gloves of Passage, and wrist wraps into tier 90 gloves. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's basically a fine one because that's just a straight up upgrade to existing items. But then you have to use like the core and then some of these, and I don't know why, but personally I just don't like the name of this item because of the way it looks and how you have to say it. It sounds stupid, but that's just how I feel. Dark Nihilus or Dark Nihilus, whatever. How would you say it? I think most people say Nihilus as far as I've heard. But I wasn't sure how to say it until I heard other people talking about it. So yeah, a bit weird there. But you need some of those, and you need the core to make the weapons, pretty much. Yeah, you need one core and a bunch of the fragments, and then some of the nihilus to make the tier 95 weapons, which are the sliver, the dark sliver, and dark shard of Lang, which also need to be upgraded from the dark ice shard and dark ice sliver, which you also need more dark nihilus to make, as well as blackstone hearts from ED3 and glorious bars. So yeah, pretty complicated process to make the tier 95, and basically these are the two drops that you mainly want to see. Apparently the cores are really rare and aren't the main thing I don't like about it, the way they've done the streaking mechanic in this boss, is because the streak and enrage do not matter as much as they do at Telos, which is kind of really weird to me, considering the fact that at Telos it was already optimal to not streak. If you are able to do consistent fast 2-4-4-9% kills, you're better off doing those for a better drop rate consistently than streaking. Usually, because I mean, unless you're like Evil Lucario and can do a 200 kill streak no food at 4,000% enrage, you always have a chance of dying on your streak and losing that better drop chance you've accumulated over a long period. Streaking is definitely more fun, in my opinion. I always hated doing claims, but regardless, it was kind of surprising to me that they moved even further away from streaking being the main focus at this boss, because it was already sort of avoided by the higher level people when you're doing Telos. So yeah, just all in all kind of weird. And then you have the Scripture of When, which is a very strong very strong new book. It's what a lot of people are using now. I bought one myself, and it's really cheap. The pages are really cheap because you get quite a bit of them while doing Glacier streaks, and yeah, it's very good. I think it's pretty much the best book outside of the Grimoire, I think. Not sure about the new one from Zuck, but still, it is really good, and it's cheap. It's cheaper than most things for the power level. Then the last part of the collection log here are all these weird cosmetics, which I didn't understand either. But basically, you just need some dark nihilus and some remnants to make those, and those are just part of the collection log. So yeah, it's kind of weird, but how do you make the arch glacier? Oh, same thing. Yeah, dark nihilus. Glaciers adornment. Yeah, these are actually upgrades from each other. So just basically got to do a bunch of the boss, get a lot of the remnants, and then use some nihilus to actually, are the nihilus tradable? No, they're not. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So basically you have to make all of this stuff from scratch. Of course, you can buy the Dark Ice Shard and Dark Ice Sliver, the tier 85 versions that use the Blackstone Hearts and stuff. So overall, you need 10 Dark Nihilus and 1 Frozen Core to make a tier 95. And I know most people have a lot more Nihilus than they are ever going to have cores. So I wonder if they're ever going to change those drop rates, but I don't know. So yeah, basically those are all my thoughts on the Glacier for that update. I think, again, I just wish the pillar attack wasn't so bad in terms of how it moves and how they spawn randomly. Not really great in that regard, but other than that, a pretty fun and enjoyable boss, and I'm really glad they brought back the streaking mechanic from Telos. And I'm just scrolling down to check the patch notes of this one. I doubt there was anything really, because it was just the update for the Glacier front, but I'm verifying here. Oh yeah, they did change the gloves of passage during this update as well. They make it so that your next ability after using Havoc or Smash will now deal 10% increased damage instead of 7%. And your target will also take 20% increased damage from bleeds for the next 10 seconds. And sorry if you can hear, my cats are kind of fighting right now, but I have not heard anybody really talk about this, so I don't know if it's any good or not. I guess probably not. Otherwise, I would hear more about it. But it's good that they're looking back at those because I don't think those have ever been good, mainly because Havoc and Smash are bad abilities that you're not really meant to use ever in your melee rotation. They are, yeah, 31 to 157% ability damage abilities. And that's just not good compared to what you can normally do with like Cleave, Sever, and Decimate. So it's normally not meant or not good to use. But I'm not sure if that's kind of a lot of increased damage. 20% increase from bleeds, and you do use bleeds quite often, especially with the trimmed masterwork Spear of Annihilation or whatever the hell it's called. I have one here somewhere. I don't remember the exact name. The Masterwork Spear of Annihilation, I guess, is the whole name, because that increases the duration of bleeds by 50%. So you use that with this. Could be good. I don't know, but again, I haven't heard anything about it or seen anyone hyped on it. So that's I guess that's not the move. But one of the things I wanted to talk about and forgot was the special attack that comes with the tier 95 dual wield melee weapons, which it sounded really good to me, but apparently it's not that great, and definitely is sounds better than it is apparently. But basically, it means that it makes it so that there's no longer a shared cooldown between Hurricane and Destroy, meaning you can use both of those. And oh wait, I thought you could also. Oh yeah, you can also use Hurricane while you're dual wielding. So you can use both Hurricane and Destroy while dual wielding. And I thought that would be pretty strong because those are both strong thresholds that you use at different points in various melee rotations. So adding it that you could use two of them, I thought would be pretty cool. But apparently they're not that great. They're not too strong. But that's also partially because melee is just weak right now. Melee is now the weakest style, if you can believe that. Mage is also now back on top. Mage is king once again, and I'll talk more about that as I go on here, because that's partially, of course, due to the Fractured Staff of Armadyl, which is just hilariously strong and so overpowered, but also because of some stuff that came out with the Zuck front that has made it even more strong, and now Mage is just bananas OP, which is interesting to say the least. But yeah, that's again that. Sorry, I went on for quite a while with that one, but that I probably will do that because I would have normally had a long video for each of these updates anyway to talk about the bosses. So yeah, that is the Glacier front. That was the first update that I missed, and we're gonna move on now to the next one, which let's see what it was. Oh yeah, I saw that a lot of people posting on Reddit about this. The September skilling bundle was the thing that was released with the next week. And it just had a bunch of MTX garbage in it, and it costed bonds to buy. So I'm not really sure why people were super mad about it, because it seemed, I don't know, it seemed just like another BS MTX thing. So if you're not going to be mad about regular MTX as much, then having a one-off little thing like this, I don't know. I mean, whatever, really. I don't know what I want to say about it. Nothing really. What has already been said. I mean, I agree. MTX sucks. It's stupid, and I wish they didn't do it. But I'm not going to go on about it for forever, really. And let's see. They didn't. Oh, they say here in this update that practice mode is no longer available for the Arch Glacier. Important for me to mention, I guess, that apparently normal mode, which is if you don't have all the mechanics on, is safe deaths as well. So Arch Glacier is the ultimate boss for learning any mechanic type in the game for sure. And yeah, that's pretty cool in my opinion. Let's see, anything else? I don't think so from this update. Oh, we have some QOL stuff. One thing that happened in this update, which I don't really like, is they made it so that your Slayer and Reaper assignments will show the weakness of the monster when you hover over the icon. So if you'll see here, wait, what? Yeah, so like for this, it just says 5 left on my Reaper task and doesn't say what it is, which is kind of annoying. You used to be able to hover over it and it would see. Obviously, you can just click this and it'll open up and show you, but still, I think it's kind of stupid that they don't show you. I thought it did the same thing for the Slayer counter, but this one's showing me what it is. So It's just for the Reaper one, I guess. I wish that would still show you what your task actually was without having to open it up. Let's see, anything else in there? It doesn't look like it really. Slayer and Reaper, they did a bunch of little changes to Slayer and Reaper task stuff that's not super important. And yeah, not really much else in that update. So that was a pretty small update, as is usual for updates following larger ones like the Arch Glacier Front would have been. But then the following week after that, they had a Ninja Strike number 26. And I was pretty happy to see this one. One thing that they changed that was pretty big for people going for comp, especially people who weren't doing anything on their way to comp until they decided to go for it. You can now do the Shattered Heart D&D statues, which is the golden and the strange rocks, as much as you want. Previously, you had to wait a week in between building the statues, and now you can just do it as many times as you want to get it done as quickly as you feel like doing. So I think that's great. I've never been a fan of time gates in any content at all, so really happy to see that they decided to remove this, and I'm hoping this mentality transfers over to raids at some point, making it so you can get Acto on lockout or anything. Like, please, please. Oh, getting Acto is just takes way too long and is just stupid. So I'm glad to see this. It's nice for people who do. Sorry about that. It's nice for people who do want to do these statues, and it'll just make it all together easier. Like, you can just grind it out all at once if you want. And that was the big part of the Ninja Strike. Let me see if there was any other things. You can now add the rocks directly to the statues, which is nice. And it says they'll now be sent to your bank if you don't have backpack space. So I assume that means it won't destroy one of your items anymore, which was annoying. But it will also still do that if your bank is full. However, it won't do that always. Sometimes it'll be lost entirely, probably if you're doing something that you definitely wouldn't want to lose whatever's in your inventory that you're skilling with, I assume. So yeah, some nice little changes there. I'm pretty happy to see those for that. They also added 5 new enhancers, which you can get from the Motherlode Maw if you do that daily. There's one for there's an Agile Outfit enhancer, which makes it so that every lap you do of either the Advanced Barbarian or Advanced Gnome course counts as 2 laps of progress towards the Agile outfit. So that's nice, although that didn't take too long to get to begin with. You can now get it even more quickly. There's also a construction contract enhancer, which grants double credits when completing a construction contract. So cool, I guess. Also an Anachronia base camp enhancer, which grants a 20% drop chance increase for rare building resources across Anachronia. Those are the ones that are required to build the tier 3 base camp structures. And this also stacks with the Roar of Osseous effect, giving a maximum of 30% drop increase. So pretty nice there. I know a lot of people have struggled with getting certain ones of those, so that might be good for you. You also have Invention Task Enhancer, which grants a new task for the tech tree that you last completed a task for. That one doesn't sound that great, but yeah. Also, a Menaphos City Quest Enhancer, which grants 100% increased reputation when completing a Menaphos City Quest. So, a couple more random enhancers for comp-related things. So, I guess cool. Enhancers are something I haven't used a whole lot of ever, really, aside from Revenant drop ones. So, I'm not too familiar with how a lot of them work, but now there's more. So, woohoo. They also went through and converted a couple more pets to interface pets. As usual, they're doing that slowly over time, so good to see them doing more. And then there was a pretty big overhaul to a lot of items' Grand Exchange buy limit, which is really nice to see. So things like arrows and headless arrows now have a 100k buy limit instead of 10k. I think there was never anything at that high of a buy limit. I think 25k was probably the highest buy limit of any item before, but now it's 100k for that. But then spirit shards also have a 500k buy limit. So that has got to be the highest buy limit of any items now, up from 10k to 500k, which is pretty huge. And then just other things, generally chronotes from 20k to 50k. I'm not going to list them all, just go through a few that I think are pretty significant. magic notepaper from 500 to 2K, adrenaline crystals from 200 to 500. Let's see. Some of them were also reduced, actually, which is weird. Viswax from 200 to 500. Let's see. Anything else that was good? Not really there. No. Potion bombs from 100 to 1000, as well as power burst potions. That's very nice. Herb seeds from 100 to 500. And then for treasure trail stuff, which is pretty wild, it went from a shared buy limit of 2 up to 50, but that's still shared. So you can now buy enough to make a single alchemical onyx or hydrix in one buy limit, which is very, very nice and pretty impactful, I think, for people making those types of things on their own. So yeah, that's really sweet. Good to see that they're at least thinking about things like that and reconsidering Grand Exchange buy limits. Some of them are still bad, but a lot of those were really bad for a long, long time. So good to see those retouched. Other than that, you can select whether to have stack value show Grand Exchange or High Elk, which is cool. Spirit Cape will now work for non-combat familiar special attacks, which I don't know why it didn't before, but yeah. And I think that was it for this update for the most part. Yeah. So some cool stuff in that update. Grand Exchange rebalancing, pretty sweet, and awesome to see them hopefully moving away even further from time-locked content because it is really, really annoying. Moving on now, the next thing that came out, or the next week's update, was the Steel Series and Prime Gaming promotion combination. And I actually wonder, do I have that aura? How do I change it back to this? No, I seem to not have. Okay. Show list view. Okay. But basically, they partnered with Steel Series to, let's see, how did you even get it? You could get a cosmetic armor set and a currency pack of stuff. Basically, I guess all you had to do was log in or register on the Steel Series site and use a key to get it. So that's interesting. I'm not sure why they would make a partnership like that where you don't have to buy anything from them, but I guess cool. Free stuff for you guys. And then they also had a partnership with Prime Gaming, delayed apparently from till October 5th. I don't really know who cares about that because I sure don't. But yeah, there's free stuff you can get if you are an Amazon Prime member. So you might as well get it if you can. And then they have a desert worm pet that you can buy for rune coins. Weird that they have a whole section for that. And then patch notes. So this update pretty small. Kind of a big part of it though here. The dwarf cannon and all its variants are now singular items. So that's very nice. Of course, the melee and magic versions of the cannons have been singular items ever since they came out with Invention. So it's nice to see them finally consolidating the regular cannon into a single item there. And yeah, that is pretty much it for that update. So pretty lame week there. Not the greatest, but still. They revealed the next front for the God Wars dungeon, which then was released on the following Monday. So yeah, we're going to get into the next front now. Bit of a few updates in between there, but now we're going to be talking about Chroesis or Chroesis. I don't know how you say it. I'm going to say Chroesis, maybe. I'm not sure. But either way, this boss I have done. So I have 0KC on this account, but I did do it on my Hardcore Iron Man Fresh and Firm. So I have done this boss. I think we did it get like 7 or 8 kills in 2 hours, which was pretty good because I was still learning and we did it. We did fail our first kill. I was doing it in a trio, but this is a skilling boss. So in my opinion, it does have a pretty similar feel, kind of, to Big Game Hunter in a lot of ways, as that is a similar skilling type PVM type encounter. So personally, I really enjoy it. And I know that's maybe not the most popular opinion, but I like this boss quite a lot personally, or at least I have liked it so far from what I've done of it. And I definitely like it more than Carapac. To go on the record here, for me, Carapac is the worst boss of Elder God Wars, pretty much by far. I really don't enjoy the boss at all, and I was kind of expecting Chroesis to be not fun or boring, because that's what a lot of people said, but I really liked it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a weirdo, but I did really enjoy doing it. And the rewards from it are pretty dang good. Like, I want the seed bag on my Iron Man so bad. That'll save me like 50 bank spaces. It'll be so big to get that. So I really hope I can get one of those. The Scripture of Bick is also amazing. You can get so many clues from this thing. It's insane. And yeah, I really want to get that as well. You can get clues stacking over the cap. It's really, really strong. And let's see, is there any other stuff from the news post that I want to mention about? They really don't say much about the front itself in the news post, it seems. And there's nothing in the patch notes for that week, but they do have this survival guide, which I think usually has a lot of the information. So yeah, overall, it's an interesting boss fight, and there's really a lot of strategy involved in forming the methods that you want to use to kill it, depending on the number of people you are doing. Like, there's a lot of variables in the fight that you have to consider, and I'm sure even now we don't have optimal strategies for the various team sizes at this boss just yet. But I really like it a lot, and if you don't know how it works, basically you go to the boss, and there are 4 different statues and 4 different quadrants of the arena that you can access. And to get between the quadrants during the fight, you have to either go through a little mushroom-filled field, or go through a little maze where you have to jump over a few things. It's not really a maze, but you have to jump over some things, and it slows you down. So basically, however many people you have, you each start in one of the 4 corners, and you have to collect things from one corner and bring it to a different corner in order to restore the statue that is in that corner. And once the statues are restored, you will then pray at them, and that will expose the core of the boss, which you can go and attack to kill the boss. And you also cannot die at this boss, but you can fail the fight, similar to Big Game Hunter. Basically, there's a bunch of special attacks that the boss will be throwing at you while you're gathering the materials and running them around the arena. And if you get hit by one of those, you will have some of your skilling stats drained. And the main stats that this boss uses are woodcutting, hunter, fishing, and mining. And those stats will get drained if you get hit by any of the special attacks. And if you don't drink a super restore, and you get hit by enough attacks, you will, I guess, die supposedly and get kicked out of the arena. So you need super restores to restore your stats, and that also helps you get the items faster that you're gathering to restore those statues. And there's also a percentage bar under the health bar of the boss, which fills up slowly and will fill up more if anyone's hit by a special attack. And if that fills up to 100%, the kill is completely failed and everybody gets kicked out, which is what happened on our first attempt, but never after that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for how the boss works. It's pretty simple in general. Like, it's not super complicated, but there's a lot of different things in there that you have to pay attention to. Like, it's kind of hard to go through without going over the whole fight, but basically, like, the corpses and when you rot them compared to who runs where with what resources, it definitely requires a lot of planning. And you each person in your group, unless you're doing like a mass public instance, each person who's going with you really needs to know what their job is and do it properly for the kill to be successful. So I mean, I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's kind of a forced group boss. Soloing it is possible, but really, really bad and not efficient, apparently. I've not tried it, but that's just what I've heard. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, overall, I like it a lot. And as far as the drops are concerned, it does have quite a few. So I already talked about the spore The spore sack can be used to make a seed bag, which holds all types of seeds, which is fantastic. And the scripture is amazing. Basically, when using non-combat skills, you'll occasionally reveal a catalyst of alteration. I assume this is similar to like a Saren Spirit or the thing from Breach of the Gods. And you can interact with this, which will give you a clue scroll and also a 5% XP boost for 1 minute. So yeah, really, really awesome item. I would love to get that on my iron. And then they also have the Crypt Bloom armor set, which is a brand new set of tank armor that is apparently insanely overpowered and really, really strong, which is shocking because it's tank armor. And let me go to the wiki page really quick. So yeah, the Crypt Bloom armor, it is tier 90 magic tank armor. So it is for magic and is the same tier as Acto. So yeah, basically it has a bunch of different passive effects depending on how many pieces you're wearing. With 2 pieces, it reduces magic damage you take and melee damage by 12% and melee damage you take by 8%. And then with 3 pieces, it increases those to 18 and 12%, but doubles that effect if you're using earth spells. So basically, if you are wearing this outfit and using earth spells, or basically if you have 3 pieces and you're using earth spells, you will have 24% magic reduction and 16% melee reduction, which is a lot. And then if you have 4 pieces on, there's a 6% chance to infect your target with death spores, which increases damage dealt against that target from behind by 10% for 15 seconds. So this is useless in solo encounters, but could be decent in group encounters. And then lastly, if you have all 5 pieces of the set equipped, if you fall below 20% of your max HP, the armor will generate a fungal shield to protect you for 15 seconds. And the amount of shield you get is tied to your armor rating and your defense level. And your armor rating will be huge because you have all of these, you have this item on, or all of these armor pieces on, which are high armor value. And then it has a 120-second cooldown before it can be used again. So a ton of different special effects if you have the full set on. And basically, if you have it all on, that final effect basically sounds to me like a second sign of life that you can use every 2 minutes. So it sounds insane. I don't know how much the shield actually ends up being. Oh, they have the whole math right here. So sure, we'll go with that. Whatever it says. Yeah, so if you're level 99 defense and you have 3,000 total armor, which I don't know where they got that number from, but that's what's default filled in on the wiki, you'll get a 3,000 HP shield. So that is huge, to be honest with you. That is so big. And yeah, essentially it's almost like a second sign of life that activates on its own at 20% of your max HP and only has a 2-minute cooldown. Actually insane. And it's also important to note that this is magic armor, and it's tank armor, so you can use Animate Dead with it. And Animate Dead is one of the new spells from City of Sentiston that gives you a massive amount of damage reduction against all damage. And that will stack with this armor set's passive effects of reducing magic and melee damage. So it is so insanely strong for just sitting there and tanking damage. You'll be able to reduce it by so much. So it's actually insanity how strong this is, in my opinion, and really, really, really good because it has all these awesome effects. And like I want this on my hardcore so bad because it would just be so strong for doing anything really that I want to be safe with. So yeah, really interesting design on this armor. I really, really like it, to be honest, and it's really cool that it came from this skilling boss, and cool that it's tank armor that might actually be worth using. A lot of people have been using it at Zuck, the new boss. So yeah, pretty freaking cool. And I don't know, I really, really want to get that armor at some point. And then lastly, there are 2 new skilling offhands that come from this boss as well, which are the Spore Hammer and the Foul Torch. So let me see. or well, they don't. Those aren't the actual skilling offhands, but you need those to upgrade into the skilling offhands. So the Spore Hammer is upgraded into the Taga's Core Hammer, which requires level 80 smithing to make and gives you increased mining benefits. So while you have it equipped, you have a 10% crit strike chance and 35% crit strike damage while mining. And you also have a chance while mining the core ores to receive Death Spore arrow tips. And these Death Spore arrow tips can obviously be used to make Death Spore arrows, which I haven't heard anything about, probably because lol, their arrows can't use criminal bolts. But they did sound pretty interesting to me. I don't know. Basically, while you're using Death Spore arrows, your crit chance is increased by 3%, which is pretty good. And then whenever you deal a critical hit, you get a stack of Feasting Spores. And if you have 5 stacks of these Feasting Spores, so every 5 times you crit, they are consumed to grant a 9-second buff that makes the next range ability that would cost adrenaline to be completely free. So if you're paying attention, you can use this to make your Death Swiftness free, or maybe use your Essence of Finality Dark Bow or Saren Godbow spec, and they're free. It sounds pretty strong to me, but I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't compare to the criminal bolts. I haven't seen anybody testing these, so I don't really know a whole lot about them since I don't have a range set up myself. Important to note that this does have a 60-second cooldown for each time it can activate, but if it is on cooldown, anytime you do crit, it will reduce the cooldown by 1.8 seconds. So that is pretty crazy. If you have all this crit stuff and you're going to be critting a lot, then you will be reducing that cooldown quite substantially and be able to use the ability a lot more often than you might think. So I will definitely try and maybe test these out if I end up getting any on my Iron Man or anything like that. I'm not sure when I would be able to do it, but still, it sounds like it could be pretty strong, and I'm interested to see how it does if anybody does do a testing video on it. So that's what you get those from using the skilling offhand while mining. And the other one, which is the Foul Torch, is used to create Santa's Fire Torch or Fear Torch. I'm not sure how you say it, but that it requires level 80 fletching to make and 80 wood cutting to wield. And this will give you, while you wear it, a 6% chance of successfully cutting logs when wood cutting and a 20% chance of receiving an extra log. And this extra log will provide extra experience. So just something good to wear while wood cutting. However, also, while you're wood cutting, you have a chance to receive Splintering arrow tips. So there's another different type of arrow, and these are called Splintering arrows, which you can make similarly to the other ones. And while you're using Splintering arrows, it doesn't have the crit buff, but all attacks you use for 4.2 seconds after using Greater Dazing Shot will also apply the puncture stacks that Greater Dazing Shot applies, which give you the bleed and increase the damage of Salt the Wound. And the max amount of stacks will be 13 stacks of puncture. And if you reapply it, puncture, it will have the stack duration reset and the bleed damage reset to its highest hit. So yeah, that does sound pretty strong, but I don't really know much about puncture or if Greater Dazing Shot is great, or if you ever want to use Salt the Wound. But the other ones sound more interesting to me, the Death Spore. But either way, I'd like to see some people do some testing on these. I'm not really a big testing of new things type of guy, but I don't know. They sound cool to me. New arrows in the game but you only get them from using these skilling offhands while skilling. So pretty rare to see people getting them, I would assume. Also important for the Fear Torch, it counts as logs while clearing sticky fungus in the Chroesis fight. So for Iron Men, this will be pretty big to get because they can't use protein logs to have stackable logs in their inventory for that part of the Chroesis fight. So yeah, I would definitely like to get this on my hardcore. And those are all the items, I think, from the Chroesis boss fight. So overall, a really, really lucrative boss. A lot of really cool drops. Spore, Seed Bag, amazing. Scripture, amazing. Crypt Bloom, amazing. Skilling offhands, pretty cool. And the pet is called Little Sus. I mean, what's there not to love about that? So I definitely really enjoy this boss, and I'm looking forward to continue killing it. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say on that one. As far as some other things did come out with the front um, at the location of it. Of course, just like all the others, they have stuff outside. This one has some skilling nodes outside that you can use to gather some things that are used to make some of these items. I think that's pretty much all I know about it. There's also a couple new like food items and random consumables that aren't that useful as far as I know. But yeah, overall, I again really enjoyed this boss fight, and you guys can let me know what you think of it in the comments. One reason I think it's really good, or one reason I enjoy doing it, I guess, is because you can use this Alt 1 app. So if you don't have this Alt 1 app, you might want to get it. It's called Sus Alert, and it basically lets you know the order of the special attacks when they're coming, because it's kind of hard to see when it's using a spec, because the boss is huge, but the arena is massive, and it's kind of hard to see the boss and what it's doing while you're getting all the items you need to rebuild the statues. So would highly recommend the Alt 1 app, Little Sus Alert, if you want to know which specs are coming up next. But yeah, overall, Chroesis fight, really enjoyable, and is honestly competing with Zuck in my mind for second best God Wars 3 boss. But anyway, let's move on now to the next update, which was Ninja Strike number 27. And this one, let me see what came out in this Ninja Strike. One thing that I really like, and I can actually show on screen finally, I know I've just been standing around a lot in this video, which I apologize for. I will throw in some footage of my first Zuck attempts when I talk about that boss, just to give you something to look at there. But as usual, these vlogs are mostly listen to while you play rather than watch a whole lot. But they added this new button to the bank interface, and you can press this to prevent it from switching your tabs when you're depositing stuff. So if I withdraw green charms and I go here, usually when I deposit them, it would switch me back to this tab, but with this button clicked, they don't. Also important to note is if you do have that button not selected, so you can automatically switch tabs. If you are on your main tab, which previously would never switch tabs if you deposit anything, it will now switch tabs when you deposit something. And I like this a lot, mainly because you can make it back to the way it was by clicking this button if you want. So I'm a fan of it, and it just shows you where your items are going. I don't know, I kind of like it. So pretty cool to see that little thing added there. Apparently they adjusted the size of click boxes through the Anachronia agility course to make it easier to go through. Haven't been through it since, but that was definitely needed, so hopefully they did it properly. Let's see, anything else in this update worth talking? You can buy master 120 capes from the person in the Max Guild, which is nice. Previously we weren't able to do that. Something a bit more extra fine sand blessing. No, not really anything here. Players can no longer fail ops. Oh, this was actually a pretty big one. You can no longer fail obstacles in the abyss. It's instead now level 30 requirement in the skills to adjust to cross through the obstacles. So that's pretty big. Of course, if you are doing a lot of rune crafting right now, it is pretty important that you get the archaeology relics that auto teleport you to the center of the abyss anyway. But still, it is pretty cool to see that they no longer have a chance for it, because that was kind of annoying. And then I think that was probably it. Chroesis front, they updated the buy limit for some stuff, and yeah, not a whole lot really. You're now able to use bladed dive while equipping Tavia's rod. Interesting. Oh, you can get the arrow tips while doing Chroesis. Apparently you couldn't get those before while doing the boss. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just a couple of other small changes. So pretty good Ninja Strike there, I guess. Really cool to see the changes for I don't know why I'm suddenly drawing a blank as to what I talked about for the changes. Oh, the Abyss. So cool to see those, but nothing huge in that one. And then the following week was another patch week. I don't think there was anything huge in this patch week. They updated the requirements to enter War's Retreat, which I don't know what they were before, but it's now 60 combat or 1000 total level. So I think that's easier. And they also increased the chance to get elite clues from the Scripture of Bic, even though it was already high. It's even higher now. So easily the best way to get elite clues is with this scripture. I'm almost positive. Okay, anything else here? Just scrolling through to see if there's anything else in this patch week. Oh, big one actually, especially because of Insight Fear making Tsunami worth using. You can now cast Tsunami from far away, and it'll always hit the target that hits you. It basically is based on your attack range as usual, and then the secondary targets are only the ones that are nearby you, apparently. But still, very very cool to see that. Makes the Tsunami easier to use, and it is definitely worth using now for sure, even though it probably was before if you're using Insight Fear. That's really all there is in that one. Then the next week after that, they had the Halloween 2021 event in which they brought back the Zombie Walk token, which erupted chaos everywhere because they had been merged into High Heavens and then plummeted in price by a ton. I didn't really care either way about that. I feel like it's fine that they bring back items from old promotions, and people assuming things are discontinued just because they were from an event is not necessarily the smartest thing in the world. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion on it, but you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. I think it was pretty similar to last year's Halloween event in general. There was just a couple of new things added that there's a couple of new things added from last year, but they have the same stuff and I guess the same mini quests from last year. So yeah, that is all that was for the Halloween event. Honestly, not the biggest event. I didn't do anything with it, so I'm not sure exactly how it ended up being, but either way. Then just last week, or I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago now, the Zekar front was released, and this is the final front of the God Wars 3 or Elder God Wars dungeon. And I'll show some footage of myself doing this on the screen while I'm talking about it. But basically, it is a new harder version of, or similar harder version of Fight Caves, Fight Kiln. And it doesn't actually have a name, I don't think, but the boss itself is called Tizkal Zuck. I'm not sure if you say the Z, but Tizkal Zuck is the boss. And you might know this boss is in old school, I think, from the Inferno. So yeah, I think people have been calling this place the Inferno, but I don't think that's the official name for it or anything like that. But either way, it is a wave it's a 17 wave thing. So similar to the Fight Kiln and Fight Caves, it does have waves, but it plays a lot more like an elite dungeon than the other places do, because this was designed to be something you do a lot and get loot from. Actually, coming back to my screen right here, I'll go to the Zuck chest. Basically, you do get loot during the entire thing. Every time you kill something, you get loot, and it goes into this chest here. So you get loot, and it accumulates in here. And yeah, it feels a lot more like an elite dungeon because of that, and because of you're going to be doing it a lot over and over. It's not just a thing you do once or a couple times to get some capes and then you're done with it. So that's an interesting thing to note about it. But there are some new capes from this place. You get an igneous stone, which upgrades each of the Takar capes, and they do some various additional things with the upgraded versions. Basically, each of them has an additional effect while worn that increases your the damage of one of your ultimates, as well as decreasing the adrenaline cost. I think they all have the same thing. The mage one buffs Omni Power so that how much it uses 60% adrenaline to use, and also hits 4 times, dealing 80 to 180% ability damage. So it is a massive ability and it does a ton of damage now. Omni Power, worth using for sure. For the range version, it does a similar thing to Deadshot, which I'm not sure if that's worth using now or not, because I'm not a big range person. And then for melee, it boosts the Overpower ability, which I don't think anybody ever used before, but is now actually, based on that, it's extremely strong now because it only costs 60% adrenaline and it hits twice with no change in the damage. So that makes it a 400 to 800% ability damage ability, which is sounds really, really strong to me. But yeah, each of those buffs, it's mostly the lesser used ultimates of the various combat styles. You wouldn't really use Omni Power unless you're trying to have some fun at Virago with Omni Roulette, or you're at Telos. Pretty much are the only places you would use those. I don't think anyone ever used Deadshot except maybe at Nex because of the soft damage cap, I think, but I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And the way you have to get these capes is kind of interesting. Basically, there's 3 different challenge waves that show up during the wave by wave fight, and each of these has a specific thing you have to do to complete it and to, I guess, impress Zuck. And if you complete each of these in a single run and also never die during the run, you will receive an igneous stone. And that is what you can use to upgrade the Talkar capes. So it was pretty interesting. It sounded really intimidating when they were revealing it. Like, you have to get a flawless run is what they called it, because something very important to note and very interesting with these caves is there are checkpoints, mainly in normal mode. In hard mode, there's only 1 checkpoint after you've beaten all the waves and only have to fight Zuck. But in normal mode, there are several checkpoints throughout the caves where if you die or you have to leave for supplies, you can start back from where you had the latest checkpoint. So definitely very interesting to see that they decided to go with those in these caves. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I guess it makes a little more sense because, again, this sort of emphasizes that feeling of it being very similar to an elite dungeon. You don't have to do it all at once. You can leave and bank and come back for the boss, things like that. So, but to get the igneous stone, you are not allowed to leave or die or use checkpoints at all, and you have to complete all 3 of the challenges. So, yeah, I think you also have to do a flawless run to unlock hard mode. Let me check. Yeah, you do have to do a flawless run in normal mode to unlock hard mode. So I did that on my 2nd attempt. I did try going in blind when I did it, but yeah, so I failed. I think I died to Zuck. I made it all the way to Zuck on my 1st attempt and died. And then I used that checkpoint to practice and learn him. And then I did it on my 2nd attempt and got my 1st cape, and also unlocked hard mode from that. And hard mode is quite a lot harder, to be honest with you. It is every monster has their HP doubled, so it is pretty big difference, and the challenges are much harder as a result of that. And then the challenge waves are modified, but every other wave is the same in terms of the enemies. But having them all be double health is actually really, really a lot harder. But yeah, that is that. And then if you complete a flawless hard mode, you're able to combine all 3 of the new capes into 1 cape, which is hybrid, has all the good stats, and has all 3 ultimate ability effects. So that's pretty sick. I do have that ability. On my first hard mode kill, I made it to Zuck and then died on the additional final phase that he has at the very end because I didn't know what was going to happen, which was really annoying. But then on my 2nd attempt, I managed to get the flawless hard mode, and I can combine my my capes, but I only have 2 stones. Need to do 1 more flawless run to get a 3rd stone, but also need to do a fight kiln. because I haven't gotten the Talkar Call Zill before, so I'll have to do that. But yeah, overall, it's pretty enjoyable. The hard mode is really, really punishing though, which is why I said people do use Crypt Bloom there often. I was using Acto for mine. It is very, you take a lot of damage there, and Animate Dead is very, very strong and very important to use there. Um, so that helps out a lot in reducing damage. But yeah, it is actually a very difficult fight, and I don't know. I'm not sure how much I like it because it really feels like a pretty big slog to get through the hard mode. It took me like 45 minutes to get my flawless run. So yeah, I mean, I've seen people do it in like 20 minutes to get the kills. So I'm sure I can improve it, and once I do, I'll probably enjoy it more. So I'll probably try and improve that by a bit. But it is pretty fun. I do like it a lot. And now let's get into the drops. And now on top of that magic capability with Omni Power, Magic gets an additional insanely strong, stupidly, ridiculously overpowered, more powerful than Greater Ricochet pre-nerf ability, Magma Tempest. And I do really like the fact that they added a new ability. I'm a big fan of that. I've said it multiple times. I don't really like the whole greater ability thing that they do. I really, really like new abilities, giving you more diversity and choices as to what to use in combat. And man, this ability is so strong. Basically, you use it kind of like Vuln Bombs. You will click it on your ability bar, and then you'll have to click a spot on the ground or on a monster, and that will create a 5x5 AOE of damage on that location that hits 8 times for 5 to 25% damage each time, which makes it 40 to 200% damage. But the important thing that makes this so strong is the fact that it hits 8 times, and that means you can get 8 crits off of it. 8 crits can be triggering the, I mean, you're not going to get 8 crits, but you can get a crit off of every one of those hits. And those crits can trigger the Fractured Staff of Armadyl special attack, and they can give you more adrenaline from your tsunami effect. So it is insanely strong because you'll basically be overflowing with adrenaline whenever you use it because of the crits that occur, giving you that 10% adrenaline from Tsunami. You can just be spamming out ults, spamming out Omni Powers, Tsunamis, Sun Shining, using G Staff specs. It's insane. It's actually so crazy how strong this is with the Fractured Staff of Armadyl. Even without the Fractured Staff and just having it with Tsunami, it would be pretty strong. But with the Staff of Armadyl on top of it, it is stupidly powerful. Apparently, they're going to be nerfing it soon. We'll see about that. I thought they were going to nerf Greater Ricochet. Turns out they took 9 months to do that. So we'll see. But a really, really cool new ability, and I'm a big fan of it. It seems really, really strong, but it's like $2 right now, so I don't have it, and I don't think I'm going to be getting it anytime soon, especially because I don't have a Fractured Staff of Armadyl anyway. Like the other bosses, there's also a scripture with this one, and this one's interesting. I haven't seen many people testing it. Most people are still using the one from Archglacior, but basically it gives you a mini berserk effect. It has a 15-second cooldown, but for 15 seconds, your damage will be increased by 20%, and damage taken will be increased by 10%. So if you take that into consideration, I'm not sure if I assume the cooldown doesn't start until after the 15-second duration runs out, right? That would make sense. So if you say maybe you have it up for like 20 seconds of each minute, that's 20 seconds is 1/3 of the minute, and you have 20% increased damage for that amount of time. So you would have 1/3 of 20%, which is a little under 7% increased damage. I'm sure there's specific math that will get that to be more accurate of a number. That was extremely guesswork, sort of napkin math in my head that I just came up with. Kind of pulled the 20 seconds out of a hat, really. I don't really have anything to back that up. I just assume, given the 15-second cooldown and the 6%, 6.6% chance to activate, You'd get it to activate once. It would go on cooldown for 15 seconds. So you'd then have another 30 seconds, activate it again, and maybe 5 seconds of that time will be activated during the same minute. I don't know. Just made that up. But I'm sure there's math somewhere that tells you what it is. But that's based on how I did it. That sounds pretty dang strong. So I'll have to see when people test it out. But I think the one from Archclaysor might actually be stronger than this one based on some small tests I've seen. However, I'm not sure. Cool ability regardless. So I'm pretty happy with that one. And then lastly, the final thing. It's also important to note that the Magma Tempest ability and the scripture, or only the scripture. I'm trying to see if it says here. I'll just check the wiki because there are drops that are exclusive to hard mode, and I want to see which ones those are. Let's see here. So yeah, you can get the scripture and the Magma Tempest Codex from normal mode, but they are lower drop rate than in hard mode. But then hard mode exclusive are the 3 pieces to make the tier 95 two-handed melee weapon. And that is called the Ekzekkill, something like that. And it looks so freaking cool. It's actually the sword that Zuck is holding right here. And my God, let me tell you, if I get this on my hardcore, I'm using my 3rd age die on that because it looks so good. 3rd age die. My God, I want that so bad. It's just such a sick looking sword. I love it a lot. And yeah, basically you need to combine the 3 pieces, the blade, core, and hilt. And by the way, that blade looking suspiciously similar to Volcanic Orb of Anima. It's actually not quite the same, but it's very close. Look at that. Interesting. I wonder how they made it look a little different. But yeah, very similar looking. But yeah, an interesting thing about this sword is it's actually considered to be an obsidian weapon, which means that the Berserker necklace, if any of you remember Pures who used to use that, it actually will provide a 5% damage bonus when worn. I doubt that's worth it, but still. The sword also comes with a special attack, which requires 50% adren and has a 60-second cooldown. And when you use it, you cleave your target for 62 to 190% ability damage, which is a decent amount of damage, but like it's like a little bit better than something like Sever. It's not really worthy of a 50% adrenaline spec, but it'll also inflict a bleed of 6 hits, which the first hit of the bleed deals 30 to 105% ability damage, which is a lot for a bleed. And then each subsequent hit deals a multiplicative 5% increased amount of damage from the previous. So a lot of math will be required to figure out how that works, but that will deal a lot of damage since it's 6 hits. That is insane, actually. Honestly, that seems so strong, but I have no idea. And apparently this can be affected by the passive effect of the Masterwork Spear, which would make it do 9 hits. That must do so much damage because it's a multiplicative increase of 5% per. I don't know, man. That sounds crazy, but you would have to put it in an EOF for that to work. But let's see what else. If the target is suffering from this special attack and is hit with another bleed or burn, an additional bleed hit will be added. Up to 5 additional bleed hits can be inflicted this way. So that means if you have it in an EOF, use it with a Trim Masterwork Spear of Annihilation. You can, and then use like Dismember and Slaughter and Blood Tendrils. That'll add 3 more bleeds. You'll get 12 bleed hits out of this one spec. My God, that sounds so strong. And it just came out pretty recently, so people haven't tested it a whole lot. but that sounds really, really strong, and it looks so cool. I really like that sword a lot. Looking forward to trying it out. And melee did need something, because with the Magma Tempest and the what's it called, the cape buff to magic, it melee is really fallen off in comparison. So that sounds insane. Also, the spec looks really, really cool. Check the wiki if you want to see a gif of it happening. Oh my god, they also, that will also work with the Gloves of Passage special effect. So you would use Smash or Havoc and then use this Cleave. The amount of bleed damage would just be through the roof. I can't even imagine. Man, that sounds crazy. I hope there's some videos that show this one off, because I would love to see it. It sounds crazy good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. The Zuck and everything. I like it. It's fun, and the rewards are really, really good and really strong. Interesting to see if they do nerf Magma Tempest, and if so, how they do it. But overall, pretty freaking sweet new cape stuff, and kind of, it's been a while since the Fight Kiln came out, and those capes were still the best, so it's cool to have them be upgraded as well. So yeah, oh my god, I just saw, I was scrolling down the page, and I saw the Third Age Dyed version of the, oh my god, it's so nice. The Shadow Dyed one's so cool too. Oh, please, need it. Also added with this this front were the Pernix Quiver fragments. So in tier 3 Elder Troves, you will be able to get Pernix Quiver fragments, which with 100 of the fragments, you can create a Pernix Quiver. And the Quiver has 2 ammo slots, which people have been asking for forever. And you can put 2 types of bolts in, a type of bolt and a type of arrow in, or any combination that you want. So that is pretty wild. And it's important to note that this becomes untradeable once you equip it. So yeah, and it also gives your range attacks plus 4% maximum damage when fighting things below 25% health. So that's not super important, but it is pretty cool. And it also gives you an access to an ability, which lets you swap your arrows that you're using in it. So you can put it on your bar, and if you want to switch from Hydrix to Onyx or something like that, you can use that ability and it'll swap them for you. So definitely an interesting quiver. I haven't seen much about that either, but cool addition to, and you can get those things from any one of the tier 3 Elder Troves. So yeah, that's the Zekhar front. And then last week, there was really nothing else. I don't think that was important in there. Just verifying, looking at the patch notes. Oh, they increased the drop rate of anima drops at full or whatever, the latest front, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So that's basically all the updates that I missed, you guys. Definitely a long video here. I hope you all enjoyed hearing my thoughts and opinions. Let me know your guys' thoughts on all of these updates. Which boss of God Wars 3 is your favorite, and why? And have you managed to get yourself any of the new capes or anything like that? Not sure if I'll be looking at doing guides for any of these or not. Let me know if there's any boss that you would want a guide for in the comments, and I'll maybe try to make one. But yeah, the next video is going to be the one where I show what I've been talking about for over a year and a half and the goal that I was working on. So you guys can look forward to that. And man, my voice is pretty shot after this video. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll add anything that I forgot to mention. If I think of anything, I'll put it in the comments as well. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you in the next video. Peace out.